Good afternoon, everybody. My name is MANOJ, as Mukesh mentioned, and I'm CEO of the Naked Group. And before any of you start wondering if it's a nudist colony, no. It is an eco-friendly hospitality group that is committed to sustainable tourism development in China. And today, I'm thrilled to be here to share an inspiring story of how rural transformation is lifting millions of people out of poverty in China and has the potential to impact many more around the world. A few days ago, I was invited by the local government to a place called Shengse. Now, Shengse is a group of islands scattered around the east coast of Shanghai, about 40-minute ferry drive from Yangshan, the deep sea port. We were to visit many of these islands to see if a potential resort can be developed there. And having visited these islands a few years ago, to be honest, I didn't have very high expectations. But as our ferry was approaching one of these islands, I actually couldn't believe what I was seeing. Once dilapidated houses scattered randomly had been transformed into something that I would probably expect to see if I was sailing in the Greek islands. And as if reading my mind, one of the local government officials, hey, we like to call these islands Santorini of the East. Okay, I had to nod in agreement. And as we visited some of these houses, or minsus as they are called in Chinese, I realized that these farmhouses had been refurbished beautifully. Some of them had beautiful features like infinity swimming pools, manicured lawns. Some even had individual swimming pools, something that you would expect if you were in Bali. The public areas were designed for a modern lifestyle, and so were the rooms and the bars and cafes. This was a proof to me that rural tourism has risen in China at China's speed and at China's scale. Now, this transformation is not isolated to Shengse. Actually, it all got started about a decade ago in a hillside town called Moganshan. With the initial success of Naked Stables or Noxinggu, it attracted a lot of attention from throughout the country, and everybody was coming to Moganshan to see what was this all about. To date, 800 houses in this little town have been converted into minsus of different sizes and shapes. And Moganshan has become ground zero for this minsu revolution. Data from Ministry of Culture and Tourism shows that in last decade, the number of visitors to the rural areas has almost quadrupled from 800 million to 3 billion, and most of this growth coming in recently. A lot of local brands have evolved in Moganshan, and now they are spreading their seeds throughout the country. Similar transformations are taking place in places like Yunnan, Sichuan, but also places like Gobi Desert, some desert tent retreats, or a Minsu cluster in a place called Chongwei in Ningxia. Now, the implications of this transformation is far, wide, and deep. Once rural tourism becomes a viable option, it creates an ecosystem of economic growth by giving opportunities to villagers and farmers to be minsu owners. It creates jobs for the local youngsters. It creates small business opportunities for the farmers to supply food and meats and vegetables and other things that these minsus need. It also attracts youngsters back to the villages and not have to flock to large cities like Shanghai and Beijing to do low-paying jobs. So not only it's growing their economic wealth, but it's also improving the quality of their lives. And of course, it creates tax revenue for the government. Now, what are the factors that are aiding to this transformation that has only increased in the last few years? And what can other developing nations learn from this experiment China has done? And what you and what we can do together to benefit this transformation. So the first, contrary to what many people may think, COVID actually helped. For the most part of last 3 years, with the exception of 1 or 2 months, China was open. Albeit with QR codes and testing requirements, and with international borders closed, it made Chinese people go to rural areas and discover domestic tourism. The data shows that the number of tourists have increased by a large number. And now Chinese people are discovering China that they did not know existed in their backyard. And now, with the international borders open, the trend that got started because of COVID is here to stay and help rural tourism for years to come. Now, I'm not advocating that other countries close their borders artificially and force people into domestic tourism. But there are things these countries can do to increase the awareness of what options exist in the rural areas. One such example is an initiative by United Nations World Trade Organization. They created a competition called the Best Tourism Village, and the results of this initiative was announced recently in a side meeting at a G20 summit in India. Because UN believes that rural tourism has the potential for community development and poverty elimination. Both these two are two main points in the 17 goals that the UN has, the Sustainable Development Goals. The second reason is also related to COVID. As the last 3 years, we witnessed a horrible toll on human life, but that toll has also increased the desire for us to live healthier lives. Now, rural tourism offers experiences that are generally linked to nature-based activities, with agriculture and rural life. So many Chinese are going to the countryside with their friends and family, far away from water, air, sound, and light pollution, to live and experience a simple and sustainable life, to relax, to refresh, and to rejuvenate. The data from Culture and Tourism Ministry shows that over the 2023 Spring Festival, more than 300 trips were taken, and many of these in the rural areas. The third factor in this transformation is a meaningful supply of rural Minsu options have come online, as evident from the example I shared of Shanse and Moganshan and other areas. Ctrip, the largest online travel agency in China, shows that the number of Minsu listings on their platform have almost increased by 5x in the last 5 years, going from 70,000 to 300 Minsus on Ctrip. And that just shows that there are so many options available, as the demand case is certainly there. The fourth factor is the rise in affordable technology and social media that has allowed these mom and pop Minsu owners to afford systems that were once only available to large operators. with the advent of WeChat mini program, Xiaohongshu, Douyin, and some more complicated systems like Dingdang Laila and Tianmu, it has allowed these small operators to connect with their end user and expose their product and offer warm hospitality at an economically affordable and in a professional manner. The data from Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs shows that in 2020, directly related to rural tourism, 12 million jobs were created with a total income generation of 2 trillion yuan, and 35% of the jobs in the farmer regions were related to rural tourism. The fifth and the last factor in this revolution that's taking place is the government policy support and funding. Now, as most of you will probably know, that rural revitalization has become a central piece of the current Chinese 10-year plan. And as a result, there has been a significant increase in the funding for these types of projects, not only directly going in refurbishing some of the dilapidated assets, but also to build infrastructure, to build roads, bridges, water systems, high-speed trains, and even sewage. The data from C-TRIP shows that the number of orders in the recent past coming from Tier 3 and below cities have actually surpassed the orders from Tier 1 and Tier 2. And that goes to show that this demand is not just limited to Shanghai, Beijing, but it is inclusive and it's comprehensive. In conclusion, I would like to say that this rise in rural tourism in China, this trend cannot be ignored, as it's lifting millions of people out of poverty by providing business opportunities, by providing job opportunities, by providing tax revenues for the government. But what can other countries learn from this China experiment? Well, first and foremost, the government policy and funding is critical, not only to directly help with the refurbishing of these assets, but equally important is for creating awareness that these types of areas exist and to increase the accessibility by providing better infrastructure. Second, they can also learn from the private sector investment that has gone in and the profits that have been, economic profits that have been made by the people who participated in it. And third and most importantly, they can learn that rural tourism, this initiative is not a charity. It will only work if an ecosystem that is based in sound economic model can work with a public and private partnership that can create benefits for all those who participated. And finally, I hope all of you will choose rural tourism as one of your travel options to support local businesses in our community while having meaningful, sustainable, and healthy experiences. See you on the mountainside. Thank you.